Hey, what's going on YouTube? Kevin, aka Gospel Gambit, back for another chess video with you guys. As you can see, we've climbed the rapid ladder a little bit since our last video. We're now up in the mid 1900s, facing an opponent today, Seller, who is 1964 at the time of this video. We're going to be bringing you another Scotch Gambit game. If you haven't seen the first video, it's I believe our second video here on the channel. We dive into a little bit more mainline theory in that video, as this video today is a quick one, only a 9-mover before our opponent resigned. We're just going to look at how knowing a little bit of opening theory as well as tactical awareness can win us the game right out of the opening and result in quick resignations by our opponents. So like I've recommended, we do start the game with e4 and our opponent plays e5. We continue with knight to f3, our opponent plays knight f6, knight c6. And we continue in our bishop to c4, setting up for a Evans Gambit if our opponent elects to the Italian opening. And in this case, when they play the two knights, you know what we're doing. We're pushing d4 right away, entering into the Scotch Gambit. Our opponent does elect to take the pawn, as is pretty normal from almost any level of play. And we continue with the move e4, e5. Now, as you can see, the computer is suggesting knight to go into e4 here, which our opponent did not elect to do. That usually leads to the main lines here, as after knight to e4, we castle, and after d5, we end up in our normal lines, where we're going to get that pawn back on d4. Usually double up black's pawns here on c5 and on c6 and c7. And we dive into some more mainline theory. That did not happen though. Black thought they could throw in this move bishop to b4. You know, it comes with a check, so why not? Well, if we dive a few moves deeper, after pawn to c3, black takes the pawn, and we take the pawn back with our b-pawn, we come to a classic tactic where two of our opponent's pieces are being attacked. Black, in this case, elects to take the pawn here on c3 instead of giving up the bishop, or saving the bishop, I should say. The computer wants him to drop the bishop back to e7, and I assume take on f6 after we capture the knight. Our opponent did not elect to do that, and instead took on c3 with his bishop, taking the extra pawn. What we get, though, is a quick development from our knight onto the c3 square, and we still have this threat on black's knight on f6. You can see a few of the computer suggestions. These are just three of the top lines that it's giving. It's suggesting just playing d5 right away, counterattacking in the center. It's suggesting castle and just giving up this knight on f6, complicating the game after rook to e8, and we possibly have to put our bishop in a pin before we can get castled ourselves, or even forcing us to just step over to f1. Or knight to g4, in which case I'm sure we have moves like h3, and we're chasing down that knight on h6, causing black to have a terrible pawn structure around their king, and going to be leading to a devastating checkmate, I assume. As you can see, the depth of 30 already on the engine, close to being +5, meaning white's considered to be up close to a full rook and advantage here. You can see we've given up 3 pawns to 1 pawn of black. So we've lost 3 pawns, but we've gained a bishop and 1 pawn for our troubles. And we have a massive lead on development here. We're 1 move away from castling, and black is still being threatened on f6. In this game, black does decide to just drop the knight back, which seems like common sense, right, to get it out of that attack behind his pawns as well. Moving the knight out here onto g4 seems like it's just going to be a bit loose. But what our opponent failed to realize is that after queen to d5, we are threatening checkmate here on f7, and all of our pieces are going to be swarming into the attack. After some moves like queen to e7, we're just going to simply castle and bring our rooks to the middle of the board, causing black to feel very uncomfortable with his queen protecting his king and going to be opposed to a rook here. We have ideas of either getting rid of this pawn somehow on the e-file, bringing our bishop out to g5, and possibly trapping black's queen here on e7. They're probably going to have to trade that queen off for either a rook or another minor piece in the future. And if black goes with the other move, let's say bishop to h6, well, we just snap that piece off. Black doesn't even have the time to take the bishop back here, as if they take it, they're just getting mated on the f7 square. And the other option that black is given by the computer is knight takes e5, giving up another piece. And after takes, black still has to protect this piece, and he's still just going to be losing multiple pieces here and eventually the game. So our opponent did resign after we played the move queen d5, and they did understand the devastating attack that we were going to be bringing onto their side of the board. And it's just a classic example of how a double attack on your opponent can win you the game outright. Just knowing a little bit of opening theory as well as a little bit of tactical prowess can get an early resignation from your opponent and allow you to jump into the next game. If you guys enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the YouTube channel here. If you would like, we just started a community on Skool games. That's skool.com. And that community is called Gospel Gambit Chess. It's a group of like-minded people all trying to improve at chess and get better. On there, I offer free training programs, a list of my recommended openings to play for both black and white, as well as a list of resources that have helped me get to the 2000 rating range here on Lichess. Hopefully you guys have had a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.